In this video I am going to address Rocking Mystery's comment, and then a comment by ScribblerG1, but first, I need to show you this tweet by Subman USA.
That boy ain't right.
Speaking of people who just ain't right, on to Rocking Mystery.
You can try to revise history as much as you like, because that's what neo-Marxists try to do.
I know what a Marxist is. I know what neo means. I had to Google neo-Marxism. It doesn't really deviate from Marxism, so basically he's calling me a Marxist. I said in my video about him, that the man accuses everyone who disagrees with him of being a leftist, Marxist, communist, collectivist, narcissist, nihilist, psychopath, and what's the first thing Mr. E does when he responds? He calls me Marxist. Way to prove me wrong. And what's funny is, my audience knows I gripe about cultural Marxism almost as much as he does. It's rare that an entire video goes by that I don't slip my hatred of cultural Marxism into the mix. I've made several entire videos bitching about it, but, hey, apparently I'm a fucking Marxist now.
But the evidence has been catalogued, video links and all.
Wait, you mean to tell me that you really think that there is an effort on part of MGTOW to revise the history of MGTOW statements like in Orwell's 1984? Well, luckily you have our videos catalogued, as do we, on our channels, but thanks for keeping backups I suppose.
With each passing year your ideology is being exposed for what it is, a group of angry, disenfranchised men that have signed up to the same anti-family, cultural Marxist agenda as the feminists you emulate, though in favor of men.
Oh yeah, because before you exposed us, MGTOW had such a great reputation. That description of us is the current mainstream opinion of the entire men's movement from day one, and ain't changing anytime soon buddy, so congratulations, you're exposing us for what people already think we are. And as for us being cultural Marxists, you got me mystery. I have made multiple videos exposing and denouncing cultural Marxism. I have warned about it, denounced, pwned it, mocked and ridiculed it, all in an effort to be sneaky and secretly implement it. I swear, us leftists are clever like that, and the sad thing is folks, he probably thinks that was an actual admission of guilt rather than sarcasm.
Here's a link proving how full of shit you are.
That link is nothing but you belly aching about wanting to ram your family values shit down people's throat. Stardust objected, you and him got into it, you got butthurt, and now you hate MGTOW and think they're evil cultural Marxist. The end. Dude, I pretty much said that was the case in my video. Did you actually watch my video? Everyone be sure to check out the link, I will put it in the description, and you fucking tell me if his blog post, The Great Proof of Our Evil, doesn't basically translate to what I just said it did.
Defending yourself, and getting irritated at people making comments like this about you and your wife, is not narcissism. How do MGTOWs repudiate Schadenfreude?
The only example you give was, in one video Stardust suggested that having a daughter in this culture would carry serious risks due to female nature. Stardust knows I have a daughter. Look, I don't know what all was said by everyone. I know today you have a lot of people saying it's going to be funny as hell when your wife divorces your smug ass. People are saying that shit because you rub your marriage in their face, and swear up and down we're all envious and jealous. You use your marriage as a prop to rub right-wing traditional conservative family values in the face of MGTOW, and then get bent out of shape when this rude insulting provocative gesture results in someone smarting off about how your wonderful infallible marriage is going to fail. You keep on with this nanny boo-boo I know how to properly select a wife so my marriage will last forever you toxic cultural Marxist cowards nanny boo-boo type of rhetoric and you get all bent out of shape when you're arrogant, smug, belligerent. Bullshit rubs people the wrong way and they smart off and say something ignorant. Not that I like to victim blame, but goddamn you were asking for it. Now, maybe people started in on you claiming your marriage was gonna fail, and other shit, before you ever rubbed your marriage and nuclear family values in people's faces. Maybe that happened, but you've not actually said that happened, and by the link you provide, you described the situation pretty much exactly as I understood the whole situation, that is you started in with your family values, critique of MGTOW first, and didn't like the pushback. As for that critical G video how do MGTOWs repudiate Schadenfreude, it's exactly as I said even back when I made a video addressing him, and used that clip, and what I am saying now, the answer remains the same. You started it, you boast and brag about your marriage, using it as a prop to taunt MGTOW and then get butthurt when some MGTOW smarts off. Again, you are the one acting like an antagonistic asshole. We're not jealous of your family, we're sick of you using it as a prop to spit in our faces.
But narcissists certainly like to lie in the way you demonstrate here, that's for sure.
And so now I am both a Marxist and a narcissist. Again, Great job of proving my point that you have a handful of labels you apply to everyone that doesn't agree with you. Although to be fair, I did actually accuse you of narcissism, so in this one case, I can see the relevance. It just doesn't help your case though. Furthermore, if there is inaccurate information I am delivering, I do so out of ignorance, not deceit.
You can troll me as much as you like.
Who's trolling you? I've made one video directly about you. I haven't left a comment on your channel in a year. Back on my old channel before it got taken down, you made a video about abortion and mentioned that you had a daughter on the way. I congratulated you on your daughter. In fact, let me find the post. I congratulated you on your baby girl. Mentioned that your anti-abortion stance as presented in this video was based on the premise that the fetus is a baby. Notice I am not even on your channel disagreeing with you, only pointing out that the way you present the argument, it all rests on that one aspect, which is subjective. I then go on to mention the hypocrisy women have of calling it a baby or calling it a fetus when it suits their purpose. By the way, notice I am here congratulating you on your baby girl, because I am like totally angry and jealous and hate your family. Give me a break. Again, I don't know what you mean when you say I control you all I want. I don't know what you mean by that. Are you anticipating me coming to your channel? Was it directed at my audience instead of me? Do you even know what trolling means? Are you conflating trolling with criticizing? Whatever, moving on.
But more and more people are coming to me and realizing what a cult of extremists you and your ilk are. And no, you won't be able to reply to this comment. See how you like your own tactics being used against you.
What? What the fuck does that even mean? What tactics? How are you unable to reply to me? You can reply to me in a video, you can reply to me, as you just have, on my channel. I don't censor my comments, except in one of my last videos some guy doxed Academy leading to a video with his face, voice, and full name, so I did remove that comment because doxing is like censorship, it's cowardly and I don't play that shit, but other than that, and occasionally spam that is already caught in my spam filter, because it is legit spam, aside from that I don't censor anyone, but again, you posted, knowing you could post. I don't friggin' get what you mean. In what way do my tactics prevent you from replying? I'm sorry, I honest to God don't know what the fuck you mean. You're like the Felicia 1717 of the Tradcan movement. You talk silly shit and I reach for my Alka-Seltzer in bemusement of the silliness in which I am reading. I claim you are a narcissist. I claim my primary reason for this conclusion is that you can't take criticism. So how do you respond? By turning off ratings on your video and turning off my ability to reply to you. You know, I'm done. From this day forth, no more rocking mystery. I have no need to continue talking about this guy. I am going to put him out of my mind. It's in the past, moving forward now. And now on to the gentleman that left a very interesting comment.
To claim our social changes over the past 60 years with family and social structure of relations between men and women are driven mostly by technology is ignorant. Razor. You've done this before with political issues and you really need to stop talking about these things because it's clear you don't understand them or study them. Socialism sought specifically to destroy the family. The term feminism was coined by one of the founders of socialism, Fourier. Engels is probably best known for his critique of the family. He wrote an essay about it in like 1873. Technology marched along without destroying the family till the 60s, when feminism gets legs. Real laws were changed to facilitate this. Welfare for single mothers was put in place. The pill gave women control over reproduction. These had huge effects on our intersexual relations and society and the family. Ideas and memes were intentionally created and disseminated by social engineers trying to liberate women from marriage and motherhood. It was explicit, the agenda wasn't hidden, and if it sounds far-fetched or like a conspiracy to you, that's in your head, not in the facts. None of this means I'm a Tradcan, it just means that you haven't studied this topic carefully. And if you don't diagnose the problem correctly, you'll never solve it. I had similar criticism of your vid where you criticized libertarianism. You really need to get that it's not just that you make some errors, in fact, it's that it's clear you don't really understand the subject. Sorry, I've spent 40 years studying the topic so I can tell, and I also don't like these ideas being dealt with so cheaply. And yes, Mr. E is an idiot and has no idea what the fuck he is talking about. And yay, I'm a huge fan of yours and love most of what you do. But this, well, it is what it is.
Thank you, sir, for this comment. I appreciate your honesty, and thank you for letting me know you are not a Tradcan. Alright, I'll admit, I am not an expert on politics. I am also not an expert on libertarianism. I am only familiar with its most prominent characteristics. This is also why in my libertarian video I wanted to address only the extremist points of the self-proclaimed libertarians who were in actuality anarchists. and I wanted to keep the argument stripped down to the most simple aspect, and not get into the more complex parts, simply because I knew I would get myself tripped up talking over my head. So I will admit, I'm not an expert in politics. You claim socialism specifically sought to destroy the family. You'll have to make a case for that. I am not convinced of it. I am aware that socialism questioned the naturalistic order of the patriarchal marriage, and often attacked it. I will not argue against the notion that feminism was born out of the socialist movement, and that to this day it is a leftist, socialist movement, but I am not convinced that socialism had the specific goal of destroying the family. I suppose we may be arguing cause and effect. Let me put it to you like this: let's say that Engels and Marx, and other prominent socialist thinkers, were never born. I insist the ideas they put forth would have been put forth by others, as a reaction to the failures of capitalism in a post-industrial world, and due to the failure of marriage as a contract to provide a fair and balanced deal for the family. I want you to imagine our world right this moment, and let's pretend the word feminism never existed, no communist revolution ever took place, and up to this point, no socialist philosophy ever uttered. Do you honestly believe that husbands would own wives as property, women would be forbidden to own property, and wives could be sold into slavery, forced into prostitution, and beaten into submissive obedience, just like it used to be, and that women in this day and age would not be resentful of this? Do you really believe in a world where the only thing forbidding women from earning the same wage as men, living the same independent lifestyle, were laws forbidding it, that there wouldn't be a female uprising against this system? This is what I am talking about. Technology, the Industrial Revolution, has placed women in a position where being financially shackled to a man is no longer a circumstance of nature, and had become a circumstance of unfair law and tradition. The rise against this tradition was not an evil, corrupting act of slippery communist conspirators. It was a natural reaction to unnatural restrictions. I say this because tradcans constantly mention the problems feminism has caused for men, and then insist that communism is the entire foundation of feminism, and that if we can rise up with almighty righteous capitalism, feminism will shrink away to nothing as a result, and therefore all problems associated with feminism will vanish. And this is why MGTOW is wicked, because all we need to do is just say no to communism and all will be right as rain. This is a common mentality that runs rampant throughout the tradcan movement, and it is false for two reasons. 1. It assumed that the misandry of feminism is the result of communist brainwashing, rather than the natural neurosis of women, and is thus as equally foolish as saying misogyny is the result of capitalism rather than the natural neurosis of men. 2. It insists that there was nothing wrong, nothing broken, with the old system, and that the socialism and feminism that came as a rise against it was an evil wicked trick Satan played on humanity. 3. Yeah, I am adding a third as a bonus. 3. If we just support right-wing politics and libertarianism, that, and that alone, will undo all the misandry and injustice the male sex faces, and we can go back to living out some utopia that never really existed. This mentality is bullshit. It all rather reminds me of a group of people who want to return to a simpler time of the horse and buggy, and declares that cars are evil, the production factories for them are inhumane, cars cause pollution, raise taxes on gasoline, and hand out car accident statistics, as an argument to abolish automobiles and return to the horse and buggy so that we can live in some Amish utopia. Alright, maybe the tradcan is not this ridiculous, but in some ways, that's what it looks like. Allow me to reiterate my point. In spite of the fact feminism could easily be argued to be an outcome of socialist philosophy, and that socialism did challenge the traditional model of family, socialism's end goal was not the destruction of the family, and feminism is a thing that happened due to changing environment when the rules of female constraint became an artificial barrier rather than a consequence of environment. That is in a technological post-industrial revolution society, where a woman can make as much money as a man. The only thing forbidding her to do so would be laws that violate her human rights. Those laws would be unjust artificial constraints that would prompt resent, and an urge to change these laws would ensue. Socialist philosophy need not exist for this to be true. You bring up socialist welfare that aids women. Well, true enough, welfare is socialism. However, if not for tax-funded welfare, in our gynocentric society, women would achieve their autonomy by just that much higher alimony and or child support. And when some men say, why should I be forced to pay 50% of my income in child support? The old-fashioned traditionalist type would start in with, as a man you have a responsibility, should have thought about that before spraying your shit everywhere. Next time don't choose a toxic woman. Now man up, coward. This would be our society's attitude rather than challenging the idea that a man should pay for 50% of the cost of a child he isn't raising. So welfare may be socialist, but women would otherwise just have men financially trapped through alimony and child support. The reason it didn't work this way in the past is, oversimplified, because of the religiously backed tradition of a culture whose entire mentality and legal system didn't support this concept at the time. Again, this correlates with my statement that just because environment changes, doesn't mean that an entire culture adapts, takes advantage, and perfectly assimilates into the new environment overnight. A new piece of technology arrives, or just some very powerful factor, enters into a culture, and you won't really see the full effect of it for a handful of generations. And the reason I bring this up, is a reminder that we still haven't fully adapted to the Industrial Revolution. We haven't caught up to the full potential of the technology we have now. When an opportunity to do something new, to live a new way, arises, we as a culture will not fully utilize this and assimilate for many generations. Next, you mention the pill. Again, the pill is the product of technology, not socialism. You could very well make a case that socialism was progressive, therefore was an attack on tradition, and so socialism and feminism attacked the traditional family. Socialist H.G. Wells made a comment about how the government should reward mothers if they raise children who are productive rather than destructive or useless, or something like that. I am paraphrasing. You could call this setup an attack, an effort to destroy family, but it wasn't trying to destroy family, it was trying to modify it. All of the socialist talk of family is an effort to modify some aspect of family. Thus the only thing they are destroying is the traditional model of family economics and structure. Change and destroy are two different things. Change is sometimes good and sometimes bad. I think all efforts to change are based on good intentions. H.G. Wells' idea sounds weird and downright wonky, and I seriously don't think it could have worked. However, I don't think his motives was to hurt people and destroy lives and cause misery and suffering. And I don't think he hated families or felt anger and jealousy towards families. In a culture where it is traditional to purchase a wife from her father, a progressive thinker may come along and state that no female is to be forced into marriage, or enter into marital contract under duress. The traditionalists of that culture would scream, "Oh my God, he's trying to attack family, he's anti-family." Yet in 1950s America, if a progressive thinker were to suggest that women should be purchased as wives from their father, the traditionalist of that culture would scream, "Oh my God, he's attacking family, he's anti-family." Again, an effort to modify family, or culture, is not the same thing as an effort to destroy family or culture, and does not make a person anti-culture or anti-family. So to reiterate, as I said in my last video, feminism is the result of technological environmental changes allowing women to be financially independent, and no longer wishing to be constrained by unnatural laws that forbid them to do these things that new technology and new economy allowed. The notion that it is the result of a purely random philosophy that came out of the blue, that can now be defeated, and we can put the genie back in the bottle and go back to the way things were a long time ago, is not true. There is no going back. If the only thing preventing women from having autonomy are laws, then those laws are unjust. In addition to them being simply unjust, they can never last. Even strong patriarchal Islam is slowly but surely weakening as feminism is slowly but surely creeping into their culture. And as I pointed out in that video, you can point to the 1950s and say there's technology, and restrictive laws removed. Yes, but that was a transitional period that can't be recaptured. The culture, clinging to tradition, going with the flow, behaved a century later than it was, because as I said, it takes an entire culture from its religion, judicial system, legislature, corporation, and social attitudes, to altogether change. You say that we need to diagnose the problem correctly, and I agree. You make the statement that Charles Fourier coined the term feminism in 1873. Well, he may or may not have coined the French term as far back as 1837. This is debatable. The term appeared and was popularized in France in 1872 as Les Feministes, which may or may not have derived from Fourier's work in 1837. I don't think it was called feminism until the 1890s in the UK, and then it first appeared in the American newspaper in 1910. It's also my understanding that the women's liberation movement was referred to as feminism as a pejorative in either 1890 or 1910, and the women's liberationists took it and owned it. And I am getting that from all the feminists who are asked if feminism is about equality, why call it feminism instead of the gender-neutral humanism, and that is the explanation I have heard many of them repeat. I can't testify to the accuracy of it. At any rate, that thing Fourier talked about was more accurately feminism in its first incarnation. And yes, he was a socialist. I do not object to the beginning of feminism. I do not object to women having the same right to an education and a job as men. I am not against their right to vote in our republic. I am not against their right to own property. I am not against their right of self-ownership, because I am also anti-slavery. Women are people, not property. If that makes me a feminist, then so be it. The thing I fight today is female supremacism, which is what this current feminist movement is about. Things like VOWA, I am against it. It's anti-male. Women's only programs, I'm against it. It favors women over men on the pretense of theoretical discrimination. Things like doctored statistics to criminalize men. I am against it. Things like regret sex now being called rape. I'm against it. These issues and deeds were not the original goals of feminism in the 1800s. There is a great danger in saying feminism is just a socialist movement. The danger here is that if this is true, then there is no need of a men's rights movement. All we have to do is propagate the conservative political philosophy and vote Republican. Really, just vote Republican and we can crush those Obama-loving socialists, and women will automatically become sweet obedient homemakers full of love, loyalty and gratitude, and men will just magically get treated fairly and all female favoritism and female preference will go poof. I am not claiming this is your stance, but it is literally the stance of many tradcans, including at least a few self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalists. I have traditionalists call me a misogynist for daring to suggest women have had anything whatsoever to do with feminism. They remind me the entire thing is just socialism, not women, and this is a dangerous and far too common mentality. Think of the women who dress like sluts for male attention and then bitch about getting looked at and catcalled, or posting cleavage shots on their Facebook and crying about the sexual harassment they get in return. You can't tell me that's just socialism. Obviously, this is women doing their tease and denial, flexing and flaunting their sexual power over men. Socialism didn't teach them this, their female sexuality did. Any effort schools make to force women to dress more conservative is met with feminist rejection on the grounds it's men trying to control women's bodies. This is not socialism, this again is women wanting to maximize their sexual power over males. Male teachers being uncomfortable with all these high school girls dressed to tease and entice, and the teachers are called pedophiles for having an underage girl's body distract him. Women love to use their sexual influence to abuse, bully, and harass men. They get off on it. Socialism didn't teach this, it's natural for them. Feminists constantly claiming they live in fear of rape and male violence. Socialism didn't teach them this, their own neurotic fear of males did. Men fear women's sexuality, women fear men's brute force. Actually, both have a love-hate relationship with it. Men want a sexy enticing woman, while simultaneously fearing the abusive potential it gives her. Women like a strong forceful male, all the while fearing the abusive potential it gives him. This is not socialism versus capitalism, it is men versus women. In the same way that today's America is not the same America forged by our forefathers, today's feminism is not the original feminism. All the female supremacist and misandry in our culture is not the result of the so-called feminism spoken of by early socialists who were primarily concerned with women being allowed to participate in the workforce, have political input, and the right to self-ownership and the right to own property. Women calling their regretful consent an act of rape is not what Charles Fourier had in mind. Furthermore, advocating for women to have self-ownership and the right to equal employment is not an effort to destroy family, unless we are defining family as a man owning his wife as property, forcing her into prostitution if he needs cash, and keeping her locked in the home as a sex slave and baby factory, devoid of human rights. Unless that is the definition of family, neither feminism nor socialism sought to destroy family. This definition of family is pretty much what is referred to as patriarchy, and yes, they both sought to destroy patriarchy. Now an argument can be made that family and social structure has changed. The balance of power between men and women have shifted back and forth in a constant pendulum, and technology can't explain this. This is a fair argument. The balance of power shifting back and forth was not the result of a socialist philosophy either. All throughout history the roles and expectations of men and women have changed throughout different time periods. Again, this is because men and women are in constant conflict with one another due to normal human dynamics. This is something I harp on a lot. This is not a battle of socialism versus capitalism, it is a battle of the sexes, and this battle is as old as humanity itself. My statement that technology allowed this current incarnation of feminism, is that living a fully independent life without the need for a man, which could be as equally prosperous and productive as a life with a man, which is the very key to women's liberation, is a product of the Industrial Revolution and the technology that both gave to, and came from it. Today, as a result of industry and technology, a woman can just as easily live a fruitful independent bachelorette lifestyle as a man if she so chooses, and the path to get there is about as difficult as the path of marriage and motherhood. While I am no expert on history, I see no evidence that a fruitful life of independence has ever been this easy for women at any other point in history, and it's not the restrictive laws that were removed that did it, so much as it is the type of high-paying jobs that involve being a paper pusher or typing on a keyboard. In the past, depending on country and time period, women could be maids, prostitutes, bar servants, spinsters, but none of these professions were preferable to marriage or offered women the same financial opportunities that men had. Today, due to industry and technology, career opportunities for women are pretty much equal to men, with only a small portion of the job market requiring the raw strength biologically afforded to men. I want to toss it out there, that men owning women as property, father handing legal custody of his daughter over to her new husband in an arranged marriage, and husbands being able to force his wife into prostitution, and all that other stuff, this was not the one and only way family worked, but certainly, throughout time and culture, this seemed to be a common state of things. Depending on the time period, depending on the culture, men could force their wives into prostitution, men could sell their wives, fathers sold their daughters, women couldn't own property. While this is not every culture in every time period, it is also not a one-time brief rare event isolated in only one nation. This was a rather common theme. As I've said before, life and marriage seemed horribly unfair to both men and women, and while I stick to the notion that women scripted the rules of male identity, men scripted the laws of the land. Women wanted disposable heroes and plow horses, men wanted sex slaves and baby makers, and each went about trying to fashion the other into those things, using the means that were available to them. To recap my point and end the video, socialism for the most part, was the originator of the original feminist movement. The feminist movement today is a rotten misandrous movement forged from the neurosis and misandry of women. A fight against socialism will not fix the gender problems we have today. Family is a thing which can exist outside of the patriarchal model. Socialism sought to change many things about how we live our lives. The relationship between husband and wife, parent and child, the destruction of family was not its goal. The alteration of it, and a lot of other things, was. The role of man and woman, and thus family, has changed due to environment changing. New environment gives new opportunities. Society is not static, it is always progressing. The changes we see, while guided through the laws and philosophies of the preachers, thinkers, and politicians, are the result of environmental change allowing new ways of life. The pill, as an example you yourself gave, no matter how much it may have been funded, pushed for and possibly engineered by a socialist, is nonetheless a technological invention, offering women new options they never had in the past, as was the Industrial Revolution.